We're going to be determining if artificial intelligence can master your track better and more efficiently than a human being can. And for the sake of the demonstration, I'll be the one taking on the role of the human being. So we're actually going to be finding out two things today. We're going to be finding out if LANDR's mastering platform is as good as it claims itself to be, and we'll also be finding out if I am as good as I claim myself to be. So I hope that you'll stick around till the end of the video, because we're going to be comparing these tracks side by side, and you'll be the judge. You'll be the one to let me know which one you think is best. And as a bonus, I'll also be walking you through my own personal mastering process. So hopefully this video will be insightful and educational to you. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need is an unmastered audio file. I've already gone ahead and pre-selected the project we'll be using for this experiment. And as you can tell, I've already disabled my mastering plugins. Now the one thing to keep in mind is that LANDR will not mix your project. But I've already taken care of this beforehand, so we're ready to move on. The last thing I want you guys to pay attention to is the clock right over here, because that's what we'll be using to determine how long this entire process is going to take. It's important because we need to know whether or not it will be saving us or costing us more time. So it's 7:41 and I'm hitting bounce now. Okay, our track just finished bouncing, so the next thing we're going to do is upload it to LANDR's mastering platform, which can be done by clicking this plus sign and locating our file. Okay, so our track just finished processing, and just to keep an eye on the time, it's been about 3 minutes already, and we haven't even started mastering yet. So to do that, we basically got this little mastering pop-up, which is going to allow us to customize our mastering. So I'm just gonna go for something more open with a higher intensity. And you can also use a reference track to have the AI listen to. So basically, if you have a song you really want to mimic in terms of mastering, you can just upload it through here and it'll try to the best of its ability, I guess, to match that track's mastering. But for the sake of this experiment, we're just going to be working with whatever it's got on the default. So we're gonna hit create master. Let's see. So normally, if you have a free account, you'll actually have access only to low MP3, but I have access at least to this one for the time being. I think that's going to be more than good enough. So let's save that. And it's currently mastering. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, so our track just finished mastering, and we're technically ready to just download it and start, comparing the two. And it took less than 10 minutes. It took about, let's say, minus me talking, about 7 minutes, which is still pretty good. I'm actually quite impressed. I didn't think it was going to be that fast. So before moving on to the final step, which is the comparison, I'm just going to be walking you guys through my own personal mastering process and see how I compare against, well, the machine. Okay, so to make this completely fair, I'm going to be using one of my own personal mastering signal chains, which I've been developing for the last couple of years. I think it's a fair comparison because as a professional music producer, you'll most likely end up creating one of these for yourself, maybe for various genres. But, like if you're just starting out, like sure, it'll take you maybe like, half an hour to an hour. But once you develop your sound and you know what you're looking for, it'll most likely take you less than 5 minutes to master a track. Like I just use this preset and I just do fine adjustments. I fine tweak things like depending on the project itself, but it will not take me more than 5 minutes normally. So instead of walking you through the tedious process, I'll just present you these plugins and explain to you why I use them. The first thing I have on my mastering chain is just a stock channel EQ. And I don't use that to EQ anything. I actually just use it as a filter sweep. So if ever I need to do filter sweeps, I'll automate this. And if ever I don't, I just disable it. The first technical thing on my mastering chain is this linear EQ. Linear EQs are more transparent, but they do take a bit more processor power. So just be mindful of that. And as you can see, I don't really boost or cut by that much. It's very much just fine tweaking, and that's what mastering should be. It's fine tweaking. The next thing I have is a multipressor, which is short for multiband compressor, which actually separates your frequency spectrum into different regions and compresses those regions independently from one another, which is really cool. And it really allows you to have maximum control over the dynamic range. So you can control the dynamic range of the low end differently than the high end, for example. And I honestly just use presets for these because I think the ones that come stock with Logic are great. I just maybe do like some little fine adjustments depending on the particular project, but for the most part, I think working with presets is really efficient. It gives you an idea of what you're going for, and you can just simply work your way from there. Now the next plugin is actually one of my secret ingredients. It's called Wolf Compressor by Goodhertz. And I think you guys will hear a significant difference in my master. Maybe not, but if you do, it's most likely this plugin. It really adds a lot of that vintage kind of like analog warmth to the mix, and it's actually pretty subtle right now, even though I have it at 80%. Like it just adds a little bit of an extra color for the mastering bus. The next plugin I use is Chromaverb, which is Logic's stock reverb plugin, and as you can see, I don't have it set very high. I just use it to add a little bit of space and depth to my mix. And that's what I think reverb on a mastering bus should be doing, just a little bit, not too much. And the last thing on anyone's mastering chain should be an add limiter. I have it set to plus 6 dB, but you might do more or less depending on how loud or how quiet you mix your tracks. I usually go pretty low, so that's why I give a 6 dB boost. If you're going higher than 6 dB, if you're going to the maximum, you're probably mixing a little too quiet, but usually that's never a problem. You just want to make sure that you're not over using this limiter by distorting your track. That's what will happen if you get it too loud. So you would definitely want to use your ears for that. And the other thing you'll want to use to monitor that is a loudness meter. Now, this measures things in loudness units, full scale, and the range I typically aim for is -14 to -10. I tend to find that most tracks that go above -10 start to distort and sound kind of broken. But sometimes I'll go as low as -14. It just really depends on the mix and how much dynamic range you're working with. But for the most part, I think that's a good range to aim for. And either way, streaming services will automatically normalize your tracks to meet their standards. So I'd rather focus on the tonal qualities of my master rather than focusing on the loudness. It doesn't really apply. It applied back in the day for tape cassettes and vinyl records, but for digital streaming, you don't really have to worry so much about loudness. So I hope that gave you a little bit of insight into my own mastering process, and hopefully it'll help make yours better if you decide to go that route. But now we're at the stage where we're going to be comparing these tracks side by side. I've already gone ahead and bounced this, so we're ready to roll. Okay, well, there you have it. Depending on what you're listening to this on, I think both masters sound relatively similar to one another. And if you're using something a bit higher quality, you'll probably hear some slight differences. But overall, I think both masters sound really good, and I think LANDR sounds much better than I expected. So as far as AI being better than a human being, I think they're pretty equal. I think AI is getting at least to the point where it can master music, so that's interesting. As far as time efficiency, I think personally I prefer mastering my own tracks because, and I'll keep doing that because it's a lot more time efficient in my case because I've already developed my sound and my technique. But if you're just getting started, I understand that LANDR might seem like something that might save you some time. But in the long run, I think it's much better to invest in your education. So if you're interested in learning about mastering, you can check out some of the free resources we have on decibelpeak.com. I'll leave some link to those articles in the description. And you can also schedule a one-on-one consultation with me if you'd rather work, one-on-one on developing this ability. So that's always a possibility. If you're an artist though, and you don't really want to dive into the production of it all and the mixing and the mastering, you're probably better off using LANDR. It's actually pretty affordable if you go with the free plan, which gives you access to 2 free masters per month, but they're only going to be MP3 files though, which is fine. I mean, for streaming services, that's pretty much what it's going to be streamed at anyways. So unless you release more than 2 tracks per month, I think that should take care of you. But other than that, you can also go for one of the yearly plans if you're really productive. But you can also consider having Decibel Peak master your projects for you, We also do mixing, so that's probably more important. Actually, it's definitely more important than mastering. So we actually include both in the same package. We do mastering for free, but we charge for the mixing. So if you're interested in getting some custom quotes for your projects, definitely contact us. We'll be leaving some links to that in the description as well. But if you want to check out LANDR and give it a shot, I definitely go for it. I think it's an interesting platform to work with, especially since it includes music distribution as well, which definitely works hand in hand with the mastering. So that being said, everything you need is going to be in the description box down below. I hope you enjoyed this little experiment. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit subscribe and give us a like. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.